Welcome to episode 1 of the Words Matter podcast. We're interviews just on conversations with their leadership moments. I'm your host, Christopher Rivers, speaker, coach, youth sports advocate, and also founder of Chris Rivers RAPP. I'm excited today. We have our first guest. His name is Canaan Chatman. For over 25 years, he's been influential in the grassroots basketball space in not only the Northwest, but nationally. And we're going to dive into his history a little bit about growing up in Portland, get into the University of Portland Hall of Fame, who he is as a father, soon-to-be grandfather, and also executive. So I'd like to welcome my first guest, Canaan Chatman.
What's good?
What up, bro? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And we got a lot to talk about. I know we're going to talk about the Rose City Showcase that's coming up, but this is so much more than this. I'm going to say this is a moment of giving you flowers because we don't have enough time. So I'm just bringing awareness to the flowers that you are going to get for your life. You've done so much for so many, me included. We'll dive into deeper to how we first met. I was going back and forth. Was it 01? Was it 2000? When you pulled up to Nimbus to the Adidas office with Kmart? But I'm just excited to learn more about you. But I think it's important for the audience to learn more about your journey. So if you could just jump into where you grew up, where you went to school. I want to hear about Benson. We've been talking all this Benson Texter stuff. I want to hear about how Oregon State went when you knew you had to transfer to UP and how all those changes catapult you into the man that you are today.
Man, from the town. From Portland, Northeast Portland to be specific. Went to Vernon Elementary. Went to Whitaker Middle School. Went to Benson High School. After I left Benson, went to Oregon State for my first 2 years, transferred, had a stop in between, stopped at PCC for a year, then went to University of Portland. So I'm Northeast Portland through and through or whatnot. So that's really.
All right, obviously basketball has been huge in your life. When did you realize at one point that, hey, I'm pretty good at this? And this might be something that can take me out of Northeast Portland?
Grew up hooping. Well, let me start. I grew up being a popper and a breaker. That's what I did first. I used to pop and break before that, but then I got a little long in like 8th grade and started growing a little bit, and it was growing out of style, so I kind of quit that. But I always played basketball, football, and baseball, all three. Got hit in the nuts as a 7th grader in football, and my mom wouldn't let me play anymore or whatever, so I had to start to specialize from there. My freshman year at Benson, I was on 3rd string. My freshman coach told me that I'd be lucky to be on varsity my senior year, but just stayed after it.
How tall were you freshman year, Cam?
5'9", 5'10".
Ooh.
5'9", 5'10".
You definitely bridged.
Yep, so then I went back. Went to Chicago in the summer. I used to go back to Chicago every summer because originally I was born in Chicago. Okay. Moved to Portland in 1979 when I was in 2nd grade and went to Vernon and then obviously all the way through. But born on the south side of Chicago. And so I used to go back to Chicago every summer. And between my freshman year and my sophomore year, I came back 6'4". And when I came back 6'4", that kind of changed the game a little bit for me because I added a little length to my skill set, which is why I always, had handles and was kind of a guard and all that stuff. And then eventually junior year, 6'6", senior year wound up being 6'7". But I was a freshman at Oregon State. I was 6'8", 170. So obviously I had the red shirt and all that. Me and Brent Berry had the red shirt our freshman year. Wound up starting 18 games as a redshirt sophomore at Oregon State. Some things was going on at school-wise. Ernest Killen wound up passing. A few things was happening. Knew that I wanted to change. Marshall Haskins, which was one of my mentors, and at that time, I felt was like a father figure to me. Understanding now, he only 10 years older than me, so he more like a big bro or whatever. But during those times, more of a dad kind of to me. He wound up getting an assistant job at University of Portland, and I knew I wanted to go rock with him at University of Portland. So instead of sitting out in between my sophomore year at Oregon State and going into UP, I wound up going with Coach Dixon to PCC because I was going to play the 1 at UP. And so at that time, I'm 6'8". I didn't kind of put on a couple of pounds. I'm like probably 190 now because I had 2 years in the Pac-10. And I needed that year to kind of rock at JUCO and rock out. And so first team All-American at PCC. A lot of people don't know that. First team All-American, not NWAC or whatever national. My visits out of PCC on Killingsworth, my visits was Arkansas, Alabama, New Mexico State, Pepperdine, Portland.
And you stayed home.
I went to UP.
And you played one season at UP.
2. I played 2. I played my junior year and played my senior year.
So you was early NIL because you did 2 at Oregon State, although one was a redshirt.
Yeah.
1 at PCC.
Yeah.
Then 2 at UP.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had a hell of a career at UP. And I didn't see any of it, but I see the banner when I go there now with your name on it, Hall of Fame. Tell me about when you found out they were inducting you to the University of Portland Hall of Fame and how it felt for you and your family.
It's cool, real cool. I mean, if nothing else, just the fact that you got banners that's in the Child Center. I mean, we got state tournament. There's a lot of activity that goes on there, and knowing that that's going to be there for a while. We won 21 games our senior year. Lost in the championship game or WCC tournament. We would have won. We would have played Maryland with Joe Smith and keep boofing them in the first round or whatever. During that time, you only got one bid out the WCC class, so we couldn't get in. Didn't even get in IT, none of that. So it kind of started my journey in regards to that. Had a good time though. Played well. Lost to Steve Nash for Player of the Year by 1 vote my senior year. So no. I did.
So you could hoop a little bit. He's all right. You lost that thing. I mean, Hall of Fame means you're a little bit more than all right.
I'm all right. But I'm Hall of Fame at Benson. I'm Hall of Fame at PCC, and I'm Hall of Fame at UP.
3 Hall of Fame. Let's run that back. Benson, PCC. Is there really Hall of Fame at JUCOs? But says there is, and UP. That's awesome. Man, basketball has done so much for you, and you've been such an influence to others. Name just a few of the names of the people that you've influenced or that's influenced you, that you've played against, played with, or coached. And I know the list is too extensive for us to get to everybody, so just give me a few that come to mind.
Man, yeah, we would be here for a long time. It's a lot of people, the entire village that raised me.
Let's talk about just like the 80s and the 90s. So let me quantify the question. That way the young dudes won't get offended when we leave them out.
Well, I would say the biggest, aside from my family, obviously, my biggest circle of influence was my friends, and probably in stages. In high school, was mostly myself, Orlando Williams, Kenny Warren, which we were all the way through. We had goals as a freshman to win state championship and to go to college, and nobody wanted to be the person that didn't get the SAT, that didn't have the grades, that wasn't able to move on or whatever, so we kind of held each other.
So you had accountability brothers early.
Early.
That's what dudes didn't have enough of. And still don't have it.
Yeah, we was holding each other accountable early and all of that, on the court and off the court. Orlando wound up going to U of O. I went to Oregon State. Kenny wound up going to 4 Final Fours at Cal State Bakersfield and won 2 national championships at the D2 level. So we came from good cloth. In the mix of that, you also had other partners that was outside that may not have went to the same school, but we was all hooping at the same park. We was all in the same gyms working out, having the same type of goals. So whether it was Pat Strickland at Wilson, along with Damon at Wilson, Nico was across the river at Tiger.
You really sound like it was far away.
Yeah, it was across the river. You can't really catch the bus. You can't walk there during that time.
Yes, that is the same Nico Harrison, our guy.
And so when it jumped to college, that took it to a whole different level because now everybody got off their block. So it's like, okay, everybody was all sitting in some vein, but now you got everybody from California, you got people from New York, you got cats from Oklahoma. Now who's going to be the best of the best? So coming back home and training and doing all of that stuff, that changed the game, and that's kind of when I made my jump. A lot of our guys was better in high school and in grade school. I was a dude that once I got to college, I wound up leapfrogging everybody.
All right, I know when we were setting up for this, you were talking about how you don't hoop anymore. Golf is your game, but Orlando Williams still trains like he has a game on Friday. I see him in the gym. He's coaching his son Major, who's nice at Jesuit, but Orlando's pulling a sled. I mean, he's working out, he's squatting, and he's giving dudes buckets every day. So what type of player was he?
Orlando, man, we've been best friends since we've been 6th grade.
Okay.
All the way through, all the way through since we've been 12. So I just didn't want to go to college with him. I had had enough. He was shooting a lot of balls. I wanted to make my own lane and do my own thing, but that's my bro all the way through, and he's just a self-made man. Unthank, you think Terrell Brandon, you think Orlando Williams, or you think Unthank Park or whatever. And so to this day, that work ethic is translated into what he does professionally, what he's doing personally in his life or whatever, and just a man of faith that he is or whatever. Couldn't be prouder of my dude.
These accountability brothers that you talked about is something that I do a lot of leadership speaking. I'm talking to young cats about that. Who's in your circle matters. A lot of people talk about that. You can tell what type of success you have by looking at the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you just named the gentlemen that you grew up with and how influential they were directly, but indirectly, because no one wanted to be left out. So all you guys kind of raised the level and kept each other going, which I think is huge. Let's talk about coaching and mentoring, which when I met you is what you were doing. Obviously, you got 3 Hall of Fame banners hanging up in different places now. What got you into coaching and mentoring young people?
In a singular focus, I would say SEI, Self-Enhancement Incorporated. Anybody that's everybody, everybody that's anybody came through Portland, you had to go through SEI camp. SEI has evolved to I think it's about $39 million a year nonprofit. Right now they have an operating budget of about $39 million. So they've come a long way than just being a 1-week camp that if you make it through the week, you get some tennis shoes like Mike had kind of alluded to earlier or whatever. But that's all we wanted. We wanted them tennis shoes at the end of the week, and we wanted to compete for those 5 days. But through that message of hooping and everything is that life without education is a long shot. So they always instilled in us, and when I say they, I'm speaking specifically to Tony Hobson, Ray Leary, and a host of other people, Marshall Haskins, and a lot of other people that was part of that initial group that instilled in us as young kids that the ball's gonna stop bouncing at some point in time, and when it does, what you gonna do, and will you be prepared to do it? And that's one of the main things that had me prepared to get involved with coaching, because I had so many relationships, I had opened so many doors that I wanted to share some of those opportunities with some kids off the same block as me that had some similar dreams and aspirations as I had.
Thank you for that. What's interesting about you mentioning SEI, when I moved here from Oakland in 1999, every person I met, I lived in Beaverton, so across the river, I think as you refer to it, every person I met from Portland had an SEI tie. And I'm like, what the hell is this SEI thing? So as I kept meeting men, and everyone I kept meeting was all successful people in whatever line of business they were in, and I started to see the influence that SEI has, and the fact that you could mention today they have a $39 million operating budget that they are touching a whole lot of lives, and we know it's needed today even more than ever. So to see that you are an alumni there, and whether it's the Reggie Guidance and other people I've met just during my time in Oregon, SEI is definitely a place that you guys looking to get involved and make contributions to Greater Portland to help the youth. SEI is definitely one of those organizations you should put on your list. Let's talk about how we met, bro. I think it was 2000. I came here in 99. I'm not sure it was 2000 or 2001, but I remember Kathy Martinelli, she worked at Adidas with me, and she goes, I got somebody from the community I want you to meet. He has a group of kids he's working with, and they might be great. And I remember you guys pulled up to the old Adidas building off Nimbus. You might have 4 or 5 of them cats in the car. And you walked up the steps, and we've been connected ever since then, man.
Man, shout out to Kmart. During that time, was just trying to figure it out, was kind of bouncing back and forth. This was around, I started in 97 with a group. It looked like they was gonna be special. Knew that I just wanted to get one group and stay with them all the way through.
Right.
If you don't get them across the finish line, I believe, if you don't get them across the finish line, then that's work that's in vain.
What do you consider the finish line?
Graduating from high school and moving on to college. Being able to see that there's life beyond the block that you live on. And for myself personally and my crew, that was the thing that separated us. Our cousins, we come from, if you're on this side of MLK, we Bloods. If you're on that side of MLK, you Crips. So, I mean, it's one of those things that gangbanging was just in the DNA of everything, in the fabric of everything that was going on, especially in the early 90s. And so, late 80s. And getting a crew across the finish line, I wanted to prove that we can do it with just work ethic and getting after it. I felt that I knew enough people that all we had to do was just get in the gym. The day has kind of changed a little bit where everybody wants to jump on planes and there's more putting on the show, but 90% of everything that we could do could be done in the park or in the gym or whatever. And then I'll couple that with some academic stuff to make sure that you're sharp enough to take these scholarships that's going to get presented. And that's what we did. That first group that I wound up bringing to you, Kathy wound up shooting us a bunch of gear, which is the huge part, because during that time, kids don't want nothing but a ride, something to eat, and then a fresh pair of kicks or whatnot.
100%.
So being able to make sure that we was laced and did all of that, that gave some inspiration for a lot of our kids to move forward. And then being able to connect with you changed the game, because it launched us kind of more on a national scene in regards to what we were aspiring to be, because honestly, coming from Portland, we never got national love anyway, so that wasn't something that I was even seeking. It was like, man, let's work on our left, let's work on our right, let's work on in between, primaries, secondaries, all of that stuff. And if you can hoop, I know enough people that I can get on the phone and we can get you to school. Where you go, that all depends on the work that you put in. But when I got a chance to connect with you, it was like we vibed. Actually had a couple of kids that was pretty good or whatever, and we got a chance to jump on that stage where we got a chance to play against the LeBrons and, you know, all of those guys that were the who's who in basketball in a time where the landscape would forever be changed.
Where were those early practices for ICP at? Which gym were you guys using? Jeff?
We started off at Kenton. We was at Kenton, which is right on Interstate and Lombard, and we were in there. We were at Whitaker, which is no longer, that's on 42nd and Killingsworth. But to be honest, we was in wherever it is, wherever we could get, you know. I was laughing because in not our first year, but our second year, which was Thomas Gardner's 8th grade year, we played all season in some Damon Stoudemire camp t-shirts with the sleeves cut off and numbers written on the back. And kids was perfectly fine with that and would run through a wall because they knew I was going to pick them up, I was going to drop them off, I was going to make sure that you were straight. Everybody didn't come from, you know, broken homes. Some of our kids had 2-parent homes and had a good foundation and everything, but 90% of them needed the support that we was given. And the fact that we were consistent with it, they had to buy in. And all I wanted to do was just make sure that I was there for them.
Well, you definitely did that. Let me pivot. We're coming up on year 22 of the Rose City Showcase. The Rose City Showcase, for those who've never attended, is potentially one of the most longest standing AAU tournaments in the Northwest. I'm sure Seattle probably has one or two, so I don't want to shortchange them. But what gave you the idea in 2001 or maybe 2002 to say, hey, I want to do a national tournament in Portland. I want to bring some of the top AAU teams in from across the country, and we're going to play at Grand High School. What were you thinking?
Entrepreneurialism, basically. I mean, I hooped. I got my last check playing in 2002, but I started ICP in 1997, so I always knew that I had an out game. And when we started traveling around, it cost a lot of damn money to do all of that. And so it would behoove us to try to figure out some type of formula where we can kind of make some money and raise some money in the process of continuing to travel around the country. And so that was the first piece, wanting to make sure that we could have one of our own. The second piece was to kind of raise the bar within the town. Everybody had goals. Anybody with a pair of baggy shorts and the new J's thought they was a hooper, and knew something. So it was one of those situations where I wanted to make sure that we brought the best of the best to the town so they could see really how much work we need to put into. These kids are 17, these kids are 16, and they're going for the same scholarships that you're going for, whatever. Let's get in the gym and we got to work.
What do you remember about year one? Grand High School, Tony Broadus. I think your whole family worked. Just take me back. I mean, I remember who was there. I'll let you speak on that, but.
I would say with the showcase, the uniqueness for what we do with the showcase is that everything is black owned and operated. I mean, which says a lot for being in Portland and being in Northeast Portland. There's a certain stigma that we can't or we need. But the reality is that we can create our own opportunities amongst ourselves. And so my family worked everything, family and friends, everything. Aunties was doing hot dogs. Father-in-law was at the door.
Yes,
even the kids that were in our program, it wasn't one of those situations where they came and played their games and they had their flip-flops on, sitting in the stands. They was working the score clocks, they was picking up trash, they was doing that, for us, by us, or whatever. And so we felt not only in our program with ICP, but with the Rose City Showcase, that we need to be self-sufficient. How could we expect anybody to support us if we don't support ourselves? And so being able to connect with Tony, being able to bring high-level talent in, and I want to say in that first year, and the difference I would also say is that everything was on one floor too. There's a lot of people that attend a lot of tournaments and they have a lot of star power, but they all over the place. This was one floor with games going simultaneously, and even in the first year, I want to say we might have had 8 pros that played in the showcase, and we only invited 8 teams.
Let's talk about some of those pros who were here, because I was there. I remember year one. Adidas was a sponsor back then, and Dwight Howard, Atlanta Celtics. Who else?
Just off the Celtics alone, Dwight obviously was a headliner. Josh Smith, Javaris Crittenton was a youngin. I want to say Brandon Rush was on that team or whatever with them. So they had 4 pros just in that itself.
Randolph Morris was
Morris as well.
Randolph as well.
Yep, Randolph as well. I want to say Roddy Stuckey and Marvin Williams was at Rotary. You had
the players came, right?
Players came. They came the second year. I don't think Gerald Henderson and Lynn Ellington, they was on the next year. I don't think they was on that first year.
So the players are from New Jersey. Atlanta Celtics from Georgia, obviously. They all came to Portland to compete for 3 days, 1 game a day, tournament format bracket that was unheard of at that time. So your ability to get on the phone, call Julio, call Wallace, call Jimmy to get them to come out. What was your selling point to get them to come to Portland in June, non-live period? We probably gave them a whole bunch of Adidas stuff too, but that was a hell of an entrepreneur power move at that time that people probably didn't see it as that.
Relationships. The timing of it, I would say it was a perfect storm because ideally a lot of AAU stuff happens between April and May, and then you give your kids back to their high school coaches in the month of June so they could play their summer league, which is respectful and everything, and you understand it. But this was a unique opportunity because our event was and still is along with Rose Festival.
Right.
And so it's a sanctioned Rose Festival event. So we want to make sure that you don't just come to Portland and you're just going from gym to gym to play. It's a festive time for the state of Oregon, and we want you to kind of experience Portland. So you get to see the parades, you get to see the naked bike riders and all the different crazy stuff that comes along with being in Portland.
Portland is weird. You're right about that.
So
it's unique.
That was one of the main things that we wanted to do. And then being able to have some sponsorship and the support of yourself and Adidas at the time or whatever, being able to help with some of those expenses that went along with it played a huge part in creating some of those early stages and some of those early memories that we had with the showcase.
In addition to incredible high-level basketball, my fondest memory is probably the first time I heard DJ OG1. The vibe in the gym, the snack bar had stuff you weren't getting in regular basketball games. You had the party on Friday night / social. I heard you talk about a little bit earlier when we were getting prep, you talked about when you started the golf tournament. Tell me how that started and how that transcended the whole Rose City Showcase basketball weekend.
So it was 2 veins that we had for the weekend. Obviously, it was fundraiser for our program, but we wanted to make sure that we had a corporate approach as well, because as we were celebrating a new class of athletes playing in the Rose City Showcase, we were also graduating a class that was moving on and going to college. So we want to recognize them. So we had a banquet our first year of the showcase. We had a banquet which graduated our first graduating class. And that class was Chris Rogers, Chris Stevens, Brandon Lincoln, Curtis Lincoln, Latrell Lambert, Ben Sullivan, J.L. Moore, several other, Tommy Magnuson, Drew Dukeshire. So we had, I think, this was the first group that we had started with originally when I grabbed them at the end of their 7th grade year. And so staying with those guys all the way through, I had 9 of the 10 wound up going Division I. And so we wanted to celebrate that. And so in our first year, Coach Olsen, Lute Olsen from Arizona, wound up being our keynote speaker and wound up coming up and speaking at our banquet and everything, celebrating the guys' accomplishments, giving them courage, giving them words of encouragement, kind of moving forward or whatever in these new journeys for them. And so what Coach Olsen had suggested was, Canaan, this is great, I love it, I'll come anytime you want, but let's play some golf or let's do a little something or whatever, so I'm just not coming up and turning around and going back or whatnot. So after that year, we wound up incorporating a golf tournament with the banquet kind of situation. So now everybody can kind of come be part of it, be festive, gives us another monetary arm to kind of raise some dough and do some things from a corporate standpoint, get some sponsors involved or whatever on a Thursday, knowing that everybody and all the players start coming in Thursday night, early Friday, for us to play basketball Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So I don't think people realize this. The Rose City Showcase was more than basketball. It was a cultural event for the city of Portland. It was a cultural event for the Northwest. And at that time, you didn't have to even know who was playing, but you came to celebrate. And there was something going on every day of that weekend in conjunction with the Rose City Festival that made it an event to be at. So I don't think you understand how much of a pioneer you were. And just, although I was there, I was an extension. I was at some of these events that you were so far ahead of your time, where today people are signing up, they're going to tournaments, playing 4 games, paying the park, paying $40 to get in, which is beyond me. I ain't paying that much to see my damn son play. But all these things that you did, and knowing it was strictly based off wanting to give back to these young men who you have been with since 7th grade. You just said 9 out of 10 win Division I, and I'm sure the 10th player went to go play at some level if he wanted to go. So definitely props to you on that. Give me 1 or 2 of your fondest memories of the Rose City Showcase, because it's coming up June 7th, 8th, and 9th, 2025. We'll be back at PCC, Portland Community College. But tell me some of your best memories on court.
Man, I would say probably year 1 after Atlanta Celtics won the inaugural Rose City Showcase. We had a dunk contest just as everybody was kind of walking out, kind of messing around, and I actually got it on film. I got everything on film. I talked to you about this. Got to figure out maybe that's something that we can get together.
We gave you all process.
Like how we got the cartons and everything full of all kinds of tapes and all kinds of stuff of every Rose City Showcase game from the beginning to where we are or whatever right now. But we had a dunk contest. And I don't know, Brandon Rush might have did a few things, Dwight did a few things, but Gerald Green wound up winning. And Gerald Green was playing for Uri. So he's playing for Houston Superstars or whatever that year. And
so you're talking about Gerald Green, NBA 2008 Las Vegas dunk champion.
Exactly. Yeah. That's probably one of the most fondest. And then the second one, if I had to pick a second one, would probably be, I don't know what year, you have to quote the year, but we had D1. We had D1 Greyhounds come in. I remember you came out to the golf course, and I didn't want to see you until they arrived. And when you showed up, that meant that the flights had landed, they was at the hotel and everything, and we was going to be good or whatnot, because the whole point was, even though in that year we had crazy talent, we wanted a showcase, we wanted a championship game of D1 Greyhounds with O.J. Mayo and Bill Walker versus Southern Cal All-Stars, which was Kevin Love, Bernardo Sidney, Klay Thompson was on that team, Brandon Jennings, Taylor King. No, I don't even think Taylor came. Taylor might not have came. He was on that team though, but he didn't come that weekend. But that's what we wanted to see. And for all of that to come to fruition that Sunday evening.
They had to just get there first off.
All of that worked its way out.
D1 Greyhounds, founded by Dwayne Barnes, West Virginia, Ohio. That's a whole nother conversation. But Kevin Love, being from Lake Oswego, being from here, we don't have time to talk about Kevin's impact on the sport and now what's he doing what he does as just a human. But O.J. Mayo and Bill Walker is one of the most fantastic duos I've seen in my 25 years playing together. As incredible as LeBron Kendrick Perkins and Leon Poe was for a weekend, what OJ and Bill did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday everywhere they went to is monumental. So to get them on the court playing against each other, the game was epic. And Renardo Sidney, who was a freshman, won MVP. And we talk about that to this very day. And Renardo might have been the coldest one out of all of them. And Brandon Jennings, I know I'm sounding old now, but the fact that you had all of them here that one weekend and it was heated and real basketball and it was film, it's just something that's a testament to who you were at that time and our partnership. Because I knew the value that they would get out of coming here. I was at Reebok then, wasn't at Adidas. Even might have been sponsored by Nike at that point. But that just shows that we were about bringing the best talent together and giving everyone the greatest experience possible. And one thing about OJ, shout out, because I'm sure he'll see this, he performed every time.
Every time.
Performing. K-Love performed every time. And I don't want to get into contrast in 2006 it was to 2025, but you could count on those guys back then in the 2000s, the Mike Beasleys, the Nolan Smith. If you were a marquee guy in grassroots basketball, sound like an old head because I am, you showed up. There was no taking, there was no load management, there was no I feel like playing, no sitting out. You had a game at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, you showed up. You had a game at 3 o'clock on Sunday, you showed up. And the Rose City Showcase was just a platform for those guys. So, but now we're entering year 22. We're 3 weeks away from year 22. What are you looking forward to about this year?
I'm just glad to be here. Getting older now, a little longer in the tooth. Watching the operation as a whole just kind of evolve. But the mission is still the same. The focus has kind of changed in regards to we're not doing high-level AAU. We've shifted our focus in order to kind of move on to the next level in terms of supporting the high school teams. June, like I mentioned, has always been the traditional summer league month. So instead of fighting with high schools in terms of making sure AAU teams had their full roster, it made more sense to go ahead and embrace these high school teams and support them and give them the same type of love and platform for them to kind of get ready for their upcoming season. And it also gives us the same opportunity and the same window of time to celebrate the town in itself. And so being able to have the high school teams that we have coming this year, we're going to have all the usual suspects. So from Benson High School to Central Catholic, Adrian Nelson, Rainier Beach, Foster.
There's gonna be some heat.
Yeah, we got some heat. Gonna be some people got Locke bringing Trinity from Vegas. So
Greg Locker is coming again.
Locke is coming. Absolutely.
People sleep on Oregon basketball. That's one of the questions I get asked. You and I both travel. They go, "What's basketball like in Oregon?" I mean, like it's played on Mars or something. I mean, because we don't have the sheer numbers of talent that other states do. Basketball is real here, and everyone who comes to the Les Schwab or now the Capital City Classic, they're seeing that there's high quality basketball being played. But one more question on the Rose City Showcase, which I'll definitely be at. What role does events like the Rose City Showcase play in fostering community? I know you're about more than basketball. You're more than just entrepreneurship. But that event happening in the Northeast, right down the street at PCC, what role do you think the Rose City Showcase has in just bringing people together?
I think it plays a huge role in that. A lot of people, it's in my opinion and in my experience, there's two things that bring people together no matter what walks of life you come from. I think sports is one, and I would say music would be the other.
Right.
And we connect both of those. We morph that together. So to your point, having OG1 in those early years or whatever, just being the soundtrack for everything it is that we're doing. Now with DJ House kind of holding it down on the ones and twos and whatnot, everything is family oriented. Again, for us, by us, being able to have it at PCC. Lewis and Clark was a host for quite some time or whatnot, but it was hell getting out to Lewis and Clark. I mean, it's tough. I mean, being at PCC, even if you didn't plan on going, you're driving right past it. So, man, let me pull over and let me see what's going on.
Once you can find parking, you are.
Exactly. Yep. So I think that fosters community. And then just the people that we work with. The venues that we hold are either coaches or kids that played for me or worked with me that are now running their own programs. The gyms that host us, like we said, Tony was originally at Grant. Now he's the AD at Portland Community College. So we just try to keep it the same. And fortunately, everybody kind of finds value in the product that we try to present.
Good. Let's pivot from the Rose City Showcase, which will be June 7th through 9th.
6th, 7th, and 8th.
Is it?
6th, 7th, and 8th. It's okay. It wasn't going to come on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's been all right.
See, that's why we talk about it. First weekend in June. You are a leading innovator in grassroots basketball. Let's talk about some of the changes you've noticed since you started 25 years ago. Positive or negative that's occurring in the sport right now.
I would say the biggest thing for me right now that I'm struggling with is the NIL stuff. I don't understand it all the way through, but the fact that there's no gatekeepers there kind of scares me a little bit, because I want the kids to be able to profit and be paid for image likeness and all of that, name, image, and likeness, but at the same time, there's respect is earned, and you got to work for it. And some of these dollars that are being given out, I just think it sets some of our kids up long-term failure. So I would like to see some regulations kind of around it a little bit, because I think it kind of dilutes the game and what it means to have hard work and go through hard times and perseverance and all that, when you can just jump in the portal and leave, or go with somebody that got a bigger checkbook and get them bread. I don't know if that sets you up for life in the right way.
No, I mean, that's a whole nother, maybe episode 3 or 4, we'll just jump in NIL only, but I agree. I'm torn on it. I work in it. I'm fortunate that to be part of my job, but there's definitely a lot more questions than answers that I think we'll start unpacking over the next 2 to 4 years, now that we'll come to our first full 4-year cycle of it, to look into it. Your contribution to the game of basketball, not just Portland, not just Oregon, not just the Northwest, but nationally. Give me 1 or 2 things you're most proud of.
Man, I would say probably the biggest thing for me was, and this is singular focus, as much as I want to help my community, and as much as I vested in Northeast Portland, and particularly in using sports as an opportunity to get yourself off the block and see a bigger world, my biggest piece was making sure that I didn't lose my children and my family in the process of chasing others. Being able to create something for them to grow in simultaneously as I was trying to build it was God's hand in it and all. Because sometimes you know, when you're chasing things and you're trying to put it all together and you don't have no blueprint to really how to do it, you can kind of lose track, because you got to keep the lights on, you got to do all of that. I was fortunate enough to be able to keep our family intact. My sons and our daughter eventually wound up gravitating to the game, so that built in automatic family time and car rides and all that, because my life and my career and what I was doing was also their passion that was instilled in them in an early age. So being able to morph all of that simultaneously was my greatest accomplishment.
You're obviously extremely proud father, husband, approaching year 26. I think we got wedding anniversary coming up tomorrow. What piece of advice would you give to parents who are trying to navigate this new sports landscape of a 13 or a 14-year-old with all these just different stimulations that are going on with the game? Something that you think helped keep you and your children rooted and your wife connected? I'm sure they were nice. He was like, what the heck are we doing? Why are we traveling here? Who's sponsoring us? All those things. But just dial it down just to, if you can think of 1 piece of advice you would give to some parents who are watching this right now and just want to have, I like to refer to some more healthier, holistic sports journey for their kid.
I would say the biggest thing, I understand, because as a parent, you want to be able to provide every opportunity, and you feel that there's nothing that your child can't do with the proper support and guidance. But with that, the challenge that I would push back on is to don't prepare the path for your child, prepare your child for the path. And sometimes we tend to navigate and try to move things around so it kind of appeases what our child wants or what we may want as parents or whatever, when the reality is that we need to give them the tools within their tool belt, because there's going to be a time that we're not there, and hopefully the things that we've given them will prepare them for all the obstacles that come in life or whatnot, whether that be athletically, socially, mentally, whatever it may be or whatever. So that would probably be the biggest thing in terms of just life lessons and how sports correlates to life in general.
So let's give our kids the tools for the path and not try to give them the path and figure out the tools. That's real. Let's talk about some of the people you grew up with, played with, coached, mentored. I mean, fingerprints of young men and women who come from the state of Oregon are all throughout the industry in basketball. Name 4 or 5 of the most influential people today. I'm not saying the ones who scored the most points, the ones who won state championships, but the ones who are the most influential in the sport of basketball that people probably don't realize. Of course, Peyton Pritchard's doing it at the highest level right now. So I'll just put Peyton out there. But some of the ones that I know you know of, that I've heard of, that are moving weight around.
There's a lot of people that are out there that are doing some things.
I'm trying to make this tough on you, but
I'm trying to. No, I see it, and well, one kind of going out the box a little bit. I'll give Marshall Haskins the first nod because he's done it at multiple levels.
Okay. Coach Haskins,
high school coach,
multiple state champion,
pioneer of SEI in terms of laying down the fabric and some of the things that we're doing and who we are today as people. But then just kind of evolving, setting the stage for Pat Strickland to come into Jefferson and not lose any momentum in regards to what's going on there, to make sure that Jeff stays relevant and stays a powerhouse not only in the state but staying nationally. But then what he's doing right now is being the athletic director for the entire PPS. So he's in charge of athletics for all of Portland Public Schools, middle school and high school. And so just seeing those, having a fundamental level of understanding about making the main thing the main thing, but growing up in a bureaucracy too, so you can have a holistic approach of how you can put policies and principles in place that last long beyond our tenure. Obviously, Damon and TB, they Mount Rushmore of Portland when it comes to basketball.
But you were up there. And that is Terrell Brandon for you young folks. YouTube it. I mean, do I need to give you assists and a lot? I mean,
man, yeah, because I'm kind of trying to think. There's a lot of people that's doing a lot of things that's behind the scenes.
Who else has a world championship besides K-Love from Oregon?
I mean, Pepe absolutely is doing extremely well, and that's one of my kids.
We already know it's Pay. I'm just making
or whatever. No, yeah, Peyton is definitely he's the only pro we have in Portland.
Yes.
I mean, the only pro that we have in Portland.
We're talking about Peyton Pritchard, Westland High School, class of 2016, 4 straight state championships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cooking.
And then you got to throw Kev in there too, because Kev was doing it early. The difference between Kev and Peyton was we knew about Kev early. Kev was doing stuff, I mean, and it was basic stuff. Outlets, he was doing that stuff for United Saturday as a 6th grader. Fundamentals, I mean, his middle name ain't West for no reason.
And his dad, rest in peace, Stan Love, was up in the stands letting you know.
Absolutely. So
for every bucket.
No question. So I would you definitely got to throw Kev and Peyton in there for sure, just in terms of influence and who's doing what, and just kind of being in the Mount Rushmore of professional basketball, but growing up all the way through it too, to give our kids in our town something to inspire and be proud about.
Talk about some of these coaches that we got in the pro. I mean, I turn on the game, I'm like, he's from Oregon.
Doing it right now. I mean, I would say the leader would have to be, you would have to look at Nico from the beginning, Nico Harrison. The things that he was doing in Dallas, absolutely. Tiger's finest. The things that he's doing at Dallas, it was some things that was in question. Even in terms of how he handled all the Luka scrutiny and everything, man, that's a testament to the town, man. Never wavered, never worried. This is what it is I'm doing. And again, fact still remains, did the Lakers come out on top? Did Dallas come out on top? But the fact that he had the balls enough to be able to do it
100%.
and had the backing to make the move and fall on the sword behind it speaks to who he is or whatever as a person. Now, obviously, getting the first draft pick and making moves and everything,
We're going to see.
yeah, he's doing his thing or whatever. Got to follow up with Ime, obviously. I mean, Northeast Portland all the way through, Oakley Green, Jefferson High School. Ime is doing his thing or whatever. And the most impressive thing about Ime is his entire staff, for the most part, is from the town. So, I mean, to reach back and put Ben Sullivan on, you got Mike Moser on, you got Garrett Jackson on, Damon was with him in Portland, Aaron Miles was with him when they was in Boston or whatever. So one of them situations when you throw the rope back over to bring your own people or whatever with you, you got to speak to that. So some people get their chance and, don't come back.
Man, we could go on that topic forever. A couple more questions before I let you get out of here. I've been fortunate enough to get to know your family. I know your wife. I've seen your kids before they all grew. I didn't get to know Brooklyn too much, but talk about the partnership you have with your wife and how that partnership allowed you to not only create a household that was full of love, that had academic and athletic expectations, but also create these multiple entrepreneur endeavors that you've been able to get into. You've been going into the prep school the last couple of years.
Man, it's everything, Riz. We talk about, just like you kind of alluded to, tomorrow we'll celebrate 26 years of being married, 36 years total. Summer 89, going in my senior year at Benson, her junior year at Jefferson. We got together, and then we've been together all the way through or whatever. And so,
Ride or die.
all the way through, yeah, all the way through. No break-offs, none of that stuff, too.
She waited 10 years on you?
Oh, man, she waited 10. She stuck it out. Yeah, she stuck it out.
You sure?
We had to get it together.
Been there.
Yeah.
Take a minute.
But when we was early in our relationship, before we had kids, we were talking about what we're doing now. We wasn't talking about, I want to go to the NBA and I want to be a pro. We was talking about, being able to raise our family together and, knowing that our kids would be successful even if we wound up breaking up, because we would stay in a partnership and make sure that they got, but what would come if we could keep this thing together, and who could they be if we kept this thing kind of rolling. And so being able to do that, it's been phenomenal, because she didn't grow up with her dad in the house, I didn't grow up with my dad in the house, so being able to grow up with all three of our kids since the cord was cut, I stopped playing basketball and quit playing, not because I couldn't continue to get checks, it was just I wasn't trying to be away from Cameron. I wanted to be here. So thus came back home and figured out how I could still be connected to basketball without being absent in terms of him. It wasn't going to be good enough to be back for holidays or any of that stuff. I needed to be there from day one all the way through.
Appreciate you sharing that. For those of us who've been married 20, 25, 30, I get it, but we know that road is bumpy. We know that there's landmines sometimes. We know that sometimes you get off the exits and you think there's nothing there. Talk about some of those challenges that not specific incidents, but talk about what you learned through some of those tough times. You had some tough ones, some ones you didn't know where it was coming from. You didn't know what was going on, but how's that preparing you for where you are now as a man, as an executive, and soon to be grandfather?
Man, you appreciate it more as you get older. Like, as you're going through it, you really don't. That's why I laugh. Me and my dudes talk about it. I got a crew of guys that we've all been best friends since, we've been in middle school. And we weren't best friends in middle school, but we all knew each other in middle school. Then when we grew and got to college and all that, the bond has stayed close. And so we talk and have a thread, and we do retreats every year and all that stuff to make sure. The one thing that we laugh at is that the common word is people say, man, I ain't happy. I ain't happy, man. I ain't happy. Happy's out the door, man. It's you have an obligation and a commitment, and the reality is that she ain't happy with me. There's some things that I can improve on, just like there's things that she can improve on, but the fact that we're willing to acknowledge those and work through them together, I think I see the value now at 52 years old that I didn't see at 17. when I was with her or whatnot. And actually 16 turning 17. I would say that's the biggest thing. And then seeing our children as well. Cameron is in his 7th year playing professionally in Europe. Couldn't be more proud of him. Him and his fiance is about to have our first grandbaby next month. We're happy about that. Khalil, our middle child, is graduating from college in June. We're happy about that.
He better write a rap about it.
Man, we're happy about that and ecstatic about his situation.
Yep.
And then our daughter Brooklyn just got back from her freshman year college at Clark Atlanta. So it's like to see the growth in them, when Cameron left to go to Michigan, when Khalil sent him to Pacific with Damon or whatever, it's like, man, go on about your business. With our daughter, we took 3 weeks off and went down there and went to IKEA and did everything to make sure that she was settled. So to leave her in Atlanta and for her to thrive and come back with a 3.7 after her first year or whatever in college and doing excellent, it's like those sacrifices and those commitments that me and Shay made 36 years ago, you can see that return on that investment.
We're going to wrap this up. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. First thing to come, I just rapid fire. I call this my overtime segment. First off, what's your favorite sports memory? Doesn't have to involve you. You could have been at home, could have been some wings involved. You could have been on the court. You could have been coaching. Just give me one of your favorite sports memories.
Favorite sports memory, I would have to say Benson 1990 state championship, only because of how we did it. We didn't even talk to our coach. We didn't have a relationship with our coach. Mike can attest to that. Rest in peace, Dick Gray and all that stuff. It was on some public enemy, radical stuff that was going on, but despite whatever was going on, we was focused, singular. And the thing that was cold, we didn't have no white dudes on our team. We had all blacks and Asians on our team, and we was...
Who'd you beat?
Huh?
Who'd you beat?
In the state championship, who did we beat? We beat West Lynn? Yeah, we beat West Lynn. West Lynn beat Wilson in the semifinals. We played West Lynn in the championship, and we smacked them. And me and Shay left after the game, jumped on the bus, and caught the bus to 22nd and Y game, went home and watched it on TV in the news, and that's how I celebrated it.
That's dope. Give me one of the biggest pieces of advice that someone has given you at any point in your life that sticks with you today, that you can draw on when making decisions, when evaluating where to turn left or turn right.
Like I said, when I moved here, now that I'm older, I understand. Basically, my mom fell out with my dad in Chicago. Was like, the hell with you. I'm going to Portland because her dad lived in Portland that she really didn't know, but she wanted to get me off the south side of Chicago. We moved here. My grandfather told me early in life and always told me until he passed.
I forgot you had people in Chicago, round ball. I remember that moment. It's like your dad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We had all people, everybody from the south side. And so my grandfather that I moved here with always told me it's better for you to be on this side of the table giving instructions versus being on the other side of the table taking them.
That's those leadership moments we talk about. That's what the Words Matter podcast is about right there. Say it again. What do you tell you?
It's better for you to be on this side of the table giving instructions versus being on the other side of the table accepting it.
Very few of us are designed to lead. This podcast is about giving flowers to those who are leading. Third question. Give me a couple of your favorite spots to eat in Portland.
New spot that me and Shay own is a winery called Amatero that I don't think is new, but it's new to us because I don't go over there too often or whatever.
Is that across the river?
Yeah, that's across the river. Yeah, that's like river. And like Shoals Ferry, Bethany out that towards that
8 miles.
Yep. Yeah, Portland is small, man. But we like Amatero. And then, you know what? I'm kind of embarrassed because as much as foodie of a place that Portland is, we kind of out of the loop because I'm still at Jack's across the street getting chicken wings. I'm doing a lot of the same stuff that I was doing.
Consistency.
Yeah, when I was in high school or whatever. But there's so many new spots that's out there. We eat all the time, but we cooks too. So we spend a lot of time in the kitchen.
All right, there's somebody watching this right now who is struggling right now. Could be a family, could be a professional relationship, could just be dealing with some tough mental health challenges right now. Give somebody some words of encouragement that you draw from. Not necessarily advice that someone gave you, but something you would say to somebody who's just going through a rough patch because you've been through them, what would you tell them?
Man, it sounds cliche, but staying deep and grounded in faith. Like, one of the biggest things for me in terms of the decisions that I made and the struggles and the successes that I've had was I share my failures as much as I share my struggles. Man, imperfect all the way through. Nobody gave us the blueprint. Didn't have a father to raise me. First time dad, first time husband, all of this stuff or whatever. But just staying grounded within it and understanding that your best thought, your best thinking doesn't necessarily provoke the best thought. So, and what I'm saying is that we can wrap our mind around all of these things or whatever and put all of the time that we put into it, but the reality is that we got blind spots and there might be some things that we're missing. And that way you want to surround yourself with some people that can kind of catch you on them blind spots and actually put you in a position that now you can see things a little bit clearer. So staying grounded, obviously, in God and your religion, but then just understanding that, you know, being imperfect is part of being perfect.
Well said. Last question. Tell us one thing that we don't know about you.
Well, I told you I was a town-renowned breakdancer and popper.
Yes, that's how we are.
Yeah.
Can you still pop?
Yeah, I don't. If it was a certain dollar amount, I can give you a windmill there, right here.
I mean, I can put Pac Jam on or looking for the perfect beat if that's what you need.
I could give you like about 2 or 3 revolutions.
Do you need cardboard?
No, I don't need that cardboard. This wood, I could hit a couple.
What was your burden there?
You know what? I was a better popper than breaker because my cousin, which Mike would know, was Herbert Horn. Herbert Horn was one of the best poppers to come through here. He was a robotic, and his mom and my mom were sisters. So when I moved to Portland, I was with Herbert, and Herbert was like probably a sophomore at Grant when I was like in the 3rd grade at Vernon. So I was everywhere at the Imperial, every place you could be. So growing up, my popping name was Baby Herb. That was my popping name, was Baby Herb. But I was cold. You ask somebody. Everybody from the town knew me from popping and breaking long before I was hooping and coaching.
You heard it. Thank you very much. We've been blessed to be 25 years at least. Hopefully we got 25 more years to go. So shout out to Kathy Martinelli for bringing us together. The Reggie Guidance, peace to H and all those people who have been so influential in this. But I want to thank you for sitting down with us. This has been episode 1, the Words Matter podcast. Episode 2 is coming soon. Don't know yet, but I want to thank Michael Hawthorne and take Joseph Ruiz for believing in this and giving up their whole afternoon to make this come to light. Yes, we are in Portland. We're in Northeast Portland on Alberta Street at the Alberta Street Pub, and they've been great hosts. So I'm Christopher Rivers. We'll see you real soon, and let's focus on getting 1% better. We out.
Well,
My man.